Hello, good morning, everyone in the room and behind the screen. I'm very happy to be in Bucharest. Actually, this is my first business trip since March 2020, so I'm really happy to be in this wonderful city. And today I will speak about our two most recent flagship schemes, SCT Instant, which is a Euro real-time credit transfer scheme, and Request to Pay. And the question there, are they made for each other? And that's the question to which I will try to respond. I believe they are made for each other for four main reasons. First, they are both digital. Secondly, they are both real-time. Thirdly, they are both operating 24/7, 365. And finally, and most importantly, they both together enable a very sleek customer experience based on solutions that can be built on both of them. So that's what I will try today to explain to you. Hopefully, I will be successful. So a few words about the EPC, so the European Payments Council. We are not part of the European Union institutional framework. We are a private sector organization. We were created close to 20 years ago in order to do what the authorities did with cash. So the euro banknotes and coins were created, and we were actually asked to do the same thing for non-cash means of payment. So in other words, to harmonize non-cash means of payment so that Europeans could pay the same way all across Europe in euro with non-cash means of payment, credit transfer, direct debit, and the like, and with one single payment account. No need to open a payment account in different places if you have to make payments in different places. So that's good for the single market, that's good for competition, that's good for the customers. And we have been achieving our vision, our raison d'être, by creating schemes. So we are in the scheme layer. This may seem a bit to be theoretical, but we are not in the solution business. The people interested in what we do, in the toolbox that we offer, the banks, the PSPs, use our schemes to build solutions. But what our schemes enable is to be able to be sure that what you do will be accepted, will be operating all across Europe. And we did for credit transfer, direct debit, also for new things I will speak about. And of course, what is important, we don't do that in an ivory tower. We do that with stakeholders, which we involve. And of course, we do that in liaison dialogue with the authorities. We represent PSPs from Europe, payment service providers, all types. So credit institutions, payment institutions, electronic money institutions, TPPs, the new guys in this space. And we do that in 36 countries in Europe. And we believe it will be, over time, 43, because there are countries not far from Romania which are interested in joining, for obvious reasons, SEPA and the EPC and what we do. So just another number, every year, 43 billion transactions are done using the schemes that we produce, and this is still growing, 5% on average. And for the new one, the real-time credit transfer scheme, this is growing between 50 and 100% a year. Okay, so what are the key features of the Euro credit transfer scheme that we have been developing, which is celebrating its 4th anniversary this month, which is called SCT Instant? Four main features that you have to remind yourself of. The first one is that with this scheme, the money is available on the account of the beneficiary within maximum 10 seconds. In practice, it's even 3, because it works very, very well, actually, and with finality. So the amount is on the account, it's final. Second feature, for the time being, there is a limit. You cannot transfer more than 100,000 euro. It was 15,000 euro initially. We have been increasing it to 100,000 euro to facilitate B2B transactions. And probably next year we will consider whether or not to increase it further, because there is demand from the corporates, from the companies, to be able to transfer more than 100,000 per payment. Next characteristic, it's available 24/7, 365, so all the time, basically. And we plan to cover 36 countries. Okay, so where are we 4 years after the creation of SCT Inst? Basically, we believe it's already a success story, but there is much more that can be done with it. And the picture is still diverse across Europe in the way that actually it has been implemented. It's much more implemented in some countries than in others, but it's there. So we have already more than 2,300 PSPs from 24 countries having joined. We will announce soon a 25th country, by the way, and 70% of the PSPs in the euro area are in it. and that's what matters. And we have, thanks to that, 14 countries where the overwhelming majority of payment accounts are already usable with SCT Instant. So that's the business dimension of SCT Instant. And more than 10% of all euro credit transfers are already now made by using SCT Instant. So they are instant. They are no longer batch. You have to wait 1 day or one banking business day. And it works very well. So more than 99% of all transactions are effected end-to-end in less than 5 seconds. So it's really instant. It's an optional scheme, so PSPs are not mandated to use it, but the Commission is thinking of mandating it. We don't believe this is a good idea. We believe the market should be left to do it, but it may come that way. And of course, instant payments are important to do an urgent payment, to pay at the last minute, so to speak, or when you don't trust the counterparty because you want to exchange goods and services but get paid. So instant payments have, of course, a very nice use case in that space, but we believe that SCT Inst offers the opportunity to invade new use cases, P2P payments, physical commerce, e-commerce payments. But for that, you need more harmonization, and we are working on that, and we will soon see that we will publish for a public consultation a QR code standards based on instant payments, because we believe that this needs to be harmonized. Otherwise, all solutions that pop up in Europe are based on slightly variants of the same QR codes. So that's not the way European payments can work. They need to rely on a similar basis. That's what we do. And next year we'll work on NFC. You know that NFC works with cards. You don't think about it, but it works every day when you use your card in a contactless mode. For instant-based payment solutions in the physical commerce, we will work on how to harmonize the way NFC can be capitalized on. So that's what we try to do. So to meet market needs, to meet evolving technology, and that's one example. I will go further and show you the map of SCT Instant. This is on the homepage of our website, and you see that unfortunately Romania is still in white, which means that Romania has not yet joined SCT Inst. I know you have a local currency instant payment scheme. We understand that you first need to build local before going Euro or European, but you can see that all those countries in yellow and orange are in SCT Instant 24, and we will add Slovakia in January, so it will be 25. Another nice slide, which is also on our website, is actually the curve showing the progression of the share of SCT Instant in total euro credit transfer transactions. So a steep curve, more than 10%, and we believe this is going to continue to grow. Some other interesting metrics. So when do people use SCT Instant? I told you it's 24/7. Well, they use it for 2/3 of the time between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m., but 1/3 of the time between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. So it's really something that people, or corporates, because they can send things overnight, use across the whole day. In terms of amount, I told you that the maximum is 100,000, and you can see that over 90% currently are for transactions below 1,000, but of course this is in number. If you were to look at value, this may show a different picture, because those high value transactions done by corporates would actually then be represented with a higher share of the total pie. Okay, now request to pay. So I think, like speaking, everybody is doing request to pay without knowing. When you do a card transaction, there is a request to pay coming from the merchant. You don't think it's a request to pay, but there is a request to pay. There is an amount on the terminal screen. That's a request to pay. And actually, for the world of credit transfer-based or SCT instant-based transactions, we are building something that is doing that. But of course, at the end, it should be incorporated into solutions that make it sort of invisible to the consumer. Again, the customer journey needs to be sleek and needs to be actually the smoothest as it could be. And I will speak about the request to pay because this is the youngest, the newest scheme that we have developed. So what is the scope of SEPA request to pay? Well, it covers, as all schemes, a set of rules, standards, obligations, data elements, including messaging that allow a payee, so someone who wants to be paid, to request the initiation of a payment from a payer. And this can be done in a wide variety of use cases, be they physical or virtual. And what is important, this is not a payment scheme. This is a messaging scheme. And that's a major difference. And that's why it's actually not regulated. You know that payments are heavily regulated. PSD2, which is being discussed here, is one of those famous regulations. Request to pay isn't. It is before the payment, but facilitates the payment. And you see the jigsaw pieces over there, and actually what the SEPA request to pay scheme covers is the two in the middle, which are intertwined, which is the request to pay, and of course the message back. Do I accept? Do I refuse? Do I want a different amount? Do I want a different currency? Do I want to pay in several installments? That's what that response piece will do. And of course, the underlying economic transaction is outside the scope of this, and the payment is within the payment schemes. And of course, we propose payment schemes, but it's totally separate, and we don't mix these two in that way. And it's payment agnostic, so it can be used to do SCT Inst transaction or traditional batch SCT transaction, or even other credit transfer in other currencies, because we are becoming currency agnostic. It's also channel agnostic. We don't care how people exchange messages. They should, however, respect the standards for the messages. But it's not up to us to tell you how to do it. It's also use case agnostic and business segment agnostic, because we believe it can be used in many use cases. So it's basically, as many things that we do, fundamentally founded on a four-corner model. So you have the two end users, the one wanting to be paid, sending a request to pay, and the one having to pay, having to respond to that request to pay. So they have to identify each other, because otherwise it's impossible to start the whole process. And then each of them will have a service provider, but it can be a three-corner model, because the service provider, and there are some use cases where it's the case, can be the same serving both customers. And for example, in a merchant environment, and you may see what I mean, sometimes the service provider of the merchant can become, for once, the service provider of the payer, of the consumer. That's typically what the PSD2 PIS thing does, but this is the same thing here. So very similar to what we are very familiar with. So end users and service providers, but again, the two service providers can be only one if it serves the two customers. So what are the benefits of the SRTP scheme? Well, it's fully digital. It facilitates the payment and can be done instantly all the time. And of course, it's applicable all across Europe, so that's the beauty of it. It will be, if it's adopted, of course, it will be the same way across Europe, all currencies, if it is being used. So that will easily enable cross-border, pan-European solutions and use cases. It gives more flexibility to the payer and the payee, because basically the payer can say, I accept now, I accept later, I pay now, I pay later. And also it enables the payer to decide precisely what it pays, but it also enables the payee to remind the payer that it hasn't paid. So there is a lot of use cases that are being thought of in the market to exploit this. And it can also replace paper invoices, because you can attach to a request to pay the electronic image of the invoice, or you can give a URL where you can find more information or in the invoice. And of course, this will help the payer to control its expenses better, but it will enable the payee, because they will have a reference of the request to pay in the payment, an easy reconciliation and better bookkeeping. So there is the whole value chain, the whole customer journey to be thought of when looking at this. We are not saying this is the ultimate missing brick, the silver bullet, but we believe that there are many use cases where it makes sense. B2B, e-commerce, especially when it's delayed delivery. You don't want to pay if you haven't got it. So we believe this is having a huge potential. So what have we done? We produce schemes, as you know, and schemes come with rule books and what we call implementation guidelines for those who have really to implement the thing from a technical perspective. And we did the first version of this rule book and the implementation guidelines back basically a year ago, and it's effective in the market since June. And we are publishing the second version on the 30th of November. And the difference between the two is the first one published last November, it was just core functionalities, not enough, because not rich enough, but we had to slice the elephant in pieces. The second version of the rulebook will cover much more functionalities, making it a rich offer. Hopefully, the toolbox will be more attractive to the PSPs and non-PSPs, because it can be used by non-PSPs because it's not regulated in the future. So among the things that we are adding now, URL, multi-currency, it was only euro so far, the possibility to request a status update, and also, very importantly, the first version was based on the very old, even though it's modern, ISO 20022 XML messaging. Now we are going to support API, and we will, as from a certain date, make it mandatory that in order to be reachable, at least you need to be able to expose and consume APIs. If you still want to do very good old XML ISO 20022 messaging, fine, but at least the minimum is to be able to be callable and to call APIs. Because we believe for this type of non-payment application, this is absolutely the way to go, the way forward. And what are the next steps as far as the request to pay scheme is concerned? So we'll continue to work and deliver the third rulebook and API specifications and minimum security framework related to the use of the APIs next year. And we will, as I said, incorporate even more functionalities in the request to pay scheme to make it even more attractive. So we'll introduce, and it's listed on the slide, the possibility to enroll payees, the possibility for payers to get activated. We will also have the possibility to request installment payments, so to pay in several installments. There will be the possibility to get notification that the payment has been executed back to the payee. And there will be also deferred payments, pre-authorization, and we will have many more features that will actually enrich this scheme. From there, after November 2022, it will become a more regular maintenance cycle. We will just adjust the scheme to reflect market needs, because we always go to the market, ask the market, what do you want to change in what we do? Because our success is if being used for the success of those using it. That's really the motto of the EPC. We are not in the solution space. We offer the basics that make it possible to work the same way all across Europe and enable your customers actually to be able to pay or request to pay, in the second case, smoothly, identically across the whole of Europe. We are doing many more things, so that's, I won't pronounce, I will just say thank you, because I risk to mispronounce this, even though I'm French-speaking, so Romanian is not too far away from my language. But many thanks for your attention. I hope it was clear enough. There is a website. We are on Twitter, on LinkedIn, so if you're interested in what I explained, please contact us or look at what we are publishing, because we publish a lot every month on our website. Thank you very much for your attention, and I don't know whether there is a way to get questions, if there are questions. Maybe it was so clear that there is no question, or it was totally unclear, so there is no question either. Yes? If you allow me, and I have a question continuing the discussion. Ah, yes. No, but I can hear you. But maybe not the audience.
Let's make it.
There is an unmute button.
No.
Oh, I have to...
Hey.
Yes, it works now.
Like this case. I want to ask you, sir, if you contemplate the idea of merchants providing data the way the banks are doing, maybe it's not linked exactly with your field, but please give us a guide about who decides that, if it's proper or not. We will have... we intend to lobby EU to allow consumers to access data from the merchants the way they are doing through the banks right now with PSD2. Thank you.
Yeah, we can continue, and I can conclude our discussion because we were interrupted.
Yes.
Of course, DPC has a P standing for payments. So we actually, and I didn't touch on this in my discussion or my talk, we are working on open payments beyond PSD2. But there is clearly an interest from the ecosystem to do more than open payments. Of course, you know open banking, but it's even open finance. You get insurance, pensions, and then people are speaking about open data, and that's where your question fits. So any data subject to consumer consent could actually be exchanged for offering new solutions, new products to customers. And there is work going on at the European Commission level with a working group that is looking at that. It's early days, but if you go probably onto the website of the European Commission, you will be able to find what they are doing there. It's being driven by DG FISMA, which is on the financial side, and DG Connect, which is more on the data economy side. And they are thinking about what to do. And maybe what the EPC is doing for premium beyond PSD2 functionalities as we speak, may be used as a model, as a template for beyond payments, banking, finance, and maybe data. Because if we are successful, because what we do is, as I was explaining to you, by the market, for the market, according to market rules, not through regulation, which we believe at the end of the day may not give what the market needs.
The data is related with the payment.
Yeah, well, payments, but of course.
So you should.
Yeah, but payment, anything that is linked
the angle
to payments.
you have.
Yeah, but payment is one part of the whole ecosystem. So you have payment, you have banking, you have finance, and then you have the whole universe, not to speak about the metaverse of data. And we modestly look at the open payment space, but open banking is near it, and open finance, open data are being looked at by these groups at the European Commission level. So if you're interested, you have to follow what they do, and maybe you may be able to participate in some of those groups. But they are limited in size as always.
Another question, and this is the final one. Do you have any news about PSD 3, 4?
Well,
what is
yes,
the vision?
Yes and no. The Commission has started the process for reviewing PSD2. They will appoint a service provider to go back and think about what did PSD2 deliver. Did PSD2 deliver on its objectives? There will be, I think, a public consultation on that in the first quarter of next year. So the Commission will ask a number of questions to the market about what PSD2 has achieved, not achieved well, achieved satisfactorily, what more should be done. And they intend, I think, to propose to the European Council and Parliament by the end of next year their thoughts about what to do next. Stay as is, amend PSD2, or go for PSD3. But this is P for payments. So this is not addressing your first part of the question, which is a parallel stream of work on which the Commission is working, as I was saying. But that's beyond payments, much, way beyond payments. Okay? Yes? Ah, you need the mic, I guess. Yeah, sorry, I'm moving maybe too much for you. No, okay.
Okay, morning. I'm Mirela Ciobanu with the papers. I don't know if you heard about us, probably you read our publication.
Yes, of course.
So you mentioned in the EPC's plan for November 2022, intentions to bring installment payments. These installment payments, in my mind, connect also with this buy now, pay later movement triggered by the market. But fortunately or unfortunately, this market is not fully regulated and some problems have popped up. Could we, I don't know, suppose the fact that you plan to bring these installment payments, this also means a plan to regulate this space more?
Yeah, well, we are not in the regulatory domain, so we are private sector.
I know,
but
maybe you can influence discussions around,
Yes, even though we are not lobbying, we have European Banking Federation, many people lobbying. We are technicians, so to speak, of payments. So we talk to the Commission, we talk to the European Central Bank, we talk to the European Banking Authority, but as always, with a technical payment perspective. So what we do will maybe subject for the solutions that build on it to new regulation, because you know that all regulators are looking at buy now, pay later because of complaints and problems possibly with that. That's not our business. We offer just the way to do it, paying in installment, and it's of course for all service providers to abide by regulation. But it's not the EPC. So we won't, I think, be really active in that because it's not our business. It's beyond our activity. Our activity is to make payments work the best way, in the same way across Europe, and what helps payments, like request to pay, like proxy lookup, and other things that we do.
Okay.
I hope I was clear, but unfortunately I cannot say, and we cannot do more.
Sergiu Cone from No Cash. I've noticed that you are saying that Romania is not yet
Yet?
a member of the SCT scheme.
Yep.
My question is if it is a central bank decision to be a member or the local bank decision?
No, it's the local banks that decide. Maybe sometimes in some countries the central bank pushes, but that's more in the euro area because this is a euro payment scheme. So it's for transactions between Romania and the rest of Europe, both ways. And it's a business case decision for the banks. And we understand fully that first the scheme is being adopted by the euro area banks. And then when there is sufficient coverage, then maybe the business case is much better for the non-euro zone PSPs to join the scheme. So that's normal. But it's not a central bank decision. But the central banks can adhere. We have central banks adhering to our schemes because they are using them for payments to and from public administrations, if they are the so-called banker of the state.
The second one, you mentioned about QR code
Yes.
standard in payments, in instant payments,
Yes.
on instant payments.
Yes.
When do you think that the future will be so close to us in terms of standard, obtaining a standard?
Yeah, so first when we do that not in our ivory tower in Brussels, we do that with many stakeholders that are interested in this. So we even involve Alipay, just to give you an example, because Alipay is QR code based, as you may know. And then we produce a standard, then we go to the market through a public consultation to make sure that the market is happy with it. And in this case, we may even give it to CEN or to ISO so that it becomes an international standard outside of the EPC. But we will have done the work to make it happen. And why is it so? It's because we are faster. If you give an assignment to CEN, it takes 2-3 years. We did it in 6 months, even less. And we will now work next year on NFC, which was much more complex for a variety of reasons, but for the same objective. If you want to be able to give a perfect consumer experience at the point of interaction, you need something that they are familiar with, something that is fast, and QR code can be one, but NFC is what they are used to with contactless card payments. So we will look at how to make NFC possible for enabling contactless SCT instant payments at the point of interaction. And then we will look at BLE, Bluetooth Light Energy, which is still an emerging technology, but has a number of advantages. And we'll also do a standard enabling this, and we'll probably, for the first one, give it to CEN or to ISO, so that it becomes really a global or at least pan-European standard for instant payment, irrespective of SCT Inst, another a Romanian real-time credit transfer scheme as it exists. So that's how we work. We work with stakeholders. We are fast, agile. We go to the market, ask them if they are happy. We publish, and then in this case, we will probably give it to an international standards organization.
Why do you think that Romania has only one TPP?
Why?
What do you think?
Why? Why is there only one TPP?
We are the last country with just one
I don't think
TPP.
I'm the one to answer that. There are hundreds of TPPs in Europe. There are hundreds of TPPs in the UK. There are other countries, not just Romania, where there are few, but I'm not the one able to speak about the Romanian market because I look at things, it's easy maybe, at pan-European level, because what we want to do is achieve pan-European harmonization, integration, innovation. We are not looking at individual countries, even though they are important for us. We want them to join, but I cannot answer to that question. And
my last one, your opinion about crypto payments and central bank digital currency?
Yeah, well, maybe a joker for that one. Yeah, I see what's happening in the market, and I think people were using shells, or in some islands they were using stones, and they knew who owned the stone, even though there was nothing showing who owned the stone. So I mean, money has been dematerialized. So this is the ultimate dematerialization. Personally, I would invest in it, so I will stop there. I would invest in it, but people do whatever they want. Because I really believe that it can be worth $60,000 or it can be worth zero. That's the problem, in my view. But that's my simple view. It's Etienne Goosse speaking. It's not an EPC view. Then CBDC, yeah, the question is, what is the business need? how to make it work within the ecosystem. Is there a need for something else? Is it a new cash in digital form, or is it something that is going to compete with a lot of existing solutions? And I think this is a public policy decision. If you were to do a rational market analysis and taking the decision to invest because you see the business case, that's not the way I think this is being looked at. This is a public policy thing. Should central banks keep beyond cash, because cash is going where it seems to go? Should they be offering something that is coming from the state, backed by the state, and enabling people to pay with something that is not private money? That's the question. Actually, I'm a member of the Digital Euro Market Advisory Group, but of course, that doesn't mean that I'm in favor, against. It's just part of the way the ECB has organized the stakeholder involvement for this big project. This is big, big, big. But this is also not before 2025, 4 years down the road. And in our world, in the world of payments, 4 years, how many things will happen? How people will pay and will change their payment habits between now and then.
But the trend it is towards, because so the trend it is towards a form of stablecoin or CBDC. I mean,
I'm not saying
the EIDAS 2.0 wants to create offline capabilities for their digital identity wallet, and this offline capabilities will be perfect for CBDCs working on an offline environment.
Exactly.
Now it's also a problem of the costs. I mean, you want to replace cash because it takes a lot of money, but on the other hand, you have to give consumers these wallets that have to work offline devices, which can be,
it's a complicated...
it needs an incentive for market participants.
Yeah, of course, but that's the issue. But that they know. They have understood that there is the need for incentivizing the market. They don't want to replace the market, they say. But of course, how will that all work, be possible? And at the end of the day, I'm not saying I'm in pro or con, and the EPC has no position on that. At the end of the day, it's the merchants, it's the consumers that will decide. You can do whatever you want, you cannot impose. Maybe in the old days, speaking in this country, you could impose things, but in today's world, you cannot impose the way people pay. They will pay the way they believe it's most convenient, most safe in their mind to pay.
It's true. Thank you.
So I cannot really respond to those very complex questions, but I give a bit of what I think. So, Mr. Organizer or Mr. Moderator, Mr. Master of Ceremony, this is
we'll take a
break.
Any question?
No, so the investigation phase started on the 1st of October, will end in 2 years' time. The ECB will take a decision, go, no go, at the end of 2023. And then the belief is that it's not possible to have something live before 2035 or 2026, if I understand correctly. And it depends on how they will implement, which I probably believe they don't know yet, whether they will phase, I don't know, starting with replacing cash, so to speak, and then go to point of sale or whatever. They need 2 years to investigate all of that. Okay? But it's not the EPC. It's the Eurosystem. Okay? Then thank you very much for your attention, for your questions, and I hope I was clear and it was interesting to you. And if you're interested, contact us or go onto our website or follow us on Twitter or LinkedIn. Thank you very much.
Thank you.